So the last 3 games that you guys have played against Oklahoma, Pitt, and Clemson, you guys have closed really strong, shutting them down defensively and getting enough scoring to sort of pull away. What do you attribute that to, with this team having sort of maybe that extra edge or fiber that they had to do that?
Well, it's something that, we've talked about is, in those stretches, down the stretch that, we just, the discipline and the details and, on both ends of the floor, how important it is to tighten the screws and really be on point defensively, getting stops, getting rebounds, defending without fouling. On the offensive end, just sheer execution, making sure we're running the play the exact way, setting the screen properly, coming off the screen the right way, getting the ball into the hands that we want, getting the right guys shooting. And it's something that we practice, I would say 99% of the time. A part of practice is last 3 minutes of the game. And I talked to you guys earlier about just a conversation that I liked in the huddle. Yeah. And that was the conversation. It was like, hey, we did this in practice. This is exactly the drill that we did in practice. Okay, so let's get a stop here. We play this game stop, score, stop, and in the huddle they were like, oh, let's get a stop, score, stop, or let's get a score, stop, score. And so they're taking what we've been talking about in practice and trying to put it in the game.
So they trust the plan, they trust what you're saying. How much do they trust each other? How much is that a part of it, just having total faith that everyone's going to handle their responsibility, so nobody, like in football there's a term where you kind of cheat a little bit because the guy is not going to handle his responsibility. How much are you seeing this team trust one another, that they know they're going to execute what they have to?
I think there's great trust amongst the teammates, and I think it's building every day. The trust on both ends of the floor that I know that my teammate has my back. One of the things I showed them this clip from Kevin Garnett, and it was talking about when he was with the Boston Celtics, and it was Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. And it was after one of their regular season games, and they asked, Kevin Garnett, like, you were so good defensively, talk about how well you played on the defensive end. He says, I was only where I was supposed to be because I knew my teammate was going to be where he was supposed to be. And I showed that to the team. I said, that's what we got to get to. That you got to trust that I'm going to do my job because you know your teammate is going to do his job.
Hubert, how does the score, stop, score sort of scenario work? Do you get points for a stop in practice? Can you lay it out for us a little bit?
No, I mean, everything that we do in practice is competitive. There's a score, it's timed, the loser runs. I mean, I think everything just has to be competitive. And, we set it up in practice to, practice is supposed to be game-like. And so that, when we get into the game, it's something that not only the actions, but actually the speed at which that translates to when you're out there in the game. And so everything that we do is there is a score, it is a competition, it is timed, and there's a winner and a loser.
That moment you were talking about, obviously after that, or during that Clemson game, how often, I guess, in those huddles or in those timeouts, had that been happening this year? Like, how often do they kind of dialogue with each other, like, in games?
Well, it's getting better now. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it's, relatively a new group together. And so when I said, hey, I love dialogue, I like to talk, at the beginning of the year, they were just trying to feel me out and just really, does he really want to hear us speak? And I do. And so, the more time that we spend together, the more comfortable they understand that this is what I like. I love that interaction. I love that conversation, that dialogue in the huddle, during the game, in practice, before and after practice. I love communication. I love talking. And that's how you build trust in relationships, by just talking to each other through these situations.
Building off of that, talked about this after the Clemson game, like the dialogue down the stretch. Was there a game where that kind of, you felt like that clicked for the team, or was it really a more gradual thing?
I would say it's a more gradual thing, and gradually I've noticed it getting, I don't want to say better, but them becoming more vocal. I've noticed that. Maybe probably the one that I would say maybe Oklahoma, But the Kentucky game was good as well. But I would say since the Kentucky game, just the level of conversation has grown, not just in the games but in practices, and it's been really good.
First week of December, you talked about you wanted your team to play a lot faster. Do you feel like you've seen that over the last month and a half?
I want to play faster. I do. I want to go. You know, whether it's a made or missed basket, you know, the pace at which we transition from defense to offense is, I want it to be real. And I feel like we have the guys to be able to do it. You know, we always talk about living in primary break where you get a layup or a dunk or deep post catch or get fouled, get to the free throw line, or quick open three by our best three-point shooters. And so that's something that we always look at and talk about our pace, and that's something that we really want to build on throughout the rest of the season.
Talking about that, there weren't that many possessions at Clemson, and there were no fast break points. What
Yeah,
was going
no.
on there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the things that I was really proud of the guys, because you're not going to be able to get the pace that you want all the time. And so in those situations, you're going to have to make adjustments and tweak and pivot and alter to be able to be successful. So, you know, like the type of games against Pitt and Clemson, two amazing teams, but it was really, you know, a lot of possessions. It wasn't really up and down. I would assume tomorrow night would be a little bit different. And so, again, that goes back to the variety and the level of our non-conference opponents that, you know, we've seen a number of different styles. Kentucky was up and down. And so we've been in different situations.
Hubert, when you look at NC State, they just dismantled Virginia over the weekend. What is it that stands out to you about them this recent strong run of play that they've had?
Well, I mean, Coach Keats is just a terrific coach, and defensively, they pick you up, they pressure you, they create steals, they create turnovers, they try to speed you up, they take you out of rhythm from an offensive standpoint. And, you know, from an offensive standpoint, like you would love to have a guy that you can just easily throw the ball to and create offense. You know, they have a number of them in the name in Burns and DJ Horn. And so, you know, they can score consistently down low in the paint. They can shoot from three. They've got athleticism that can attack the basket. And when you've got, you know, DJ Byrne, who can score, but he's not a good passer. He is a gifted passer. It you know, poses a lot of problems for us defensively.
We talk a lot about the rivalry with Duke, Hubert, but what does this rivalry with NC State mean to you, and even go back to your time as a player?
Yeah, you know, people ask me that question at every game to me, and I really mean this, is a rivalry to me. There isn't, okay, here's NC State or here's Duke. For me, I am fired up whomever we play and wherever we play. And so, obviously, it's a history of, you know, me playing here at North Carolina, and I've told you guys how much fun and how hard and difficult it was to play at Reynolds Coliseum, and my struggles to score there in the first half, all 4 years. And so, but I just remember those great battles with, you know, Rodney Monroe and Tom Gugliotta, and those are fun times.
When you were playing, and when you were not playing, when you were in TV before you got on the staff here, how did you view the NC State game?
A really fun, very competitive game. I you know.
As a fan, was there a little bit more of an edge to it, or did you kind of
No.
see it because you played through them? You just kind of saw them all the same way still.
I do. I just always felt that way. Even whatever team that I played for, you know, with the Knicks, you know, I didn't go, oh, here comes the Chicago Bulls. It could have been the Minnesota Timberwolves. I was just always fired up and ready to go. And so there's never been a change for me. Well, now I'm going to prepare harder or play harder, or now I'm more upset and determined. It's just, it's really cool and really an honor to compete against NC State and Duke and Virginia and everyone else every year. And so there's really no difference for me.
Even though you
don't necessarily, practice harder or weigh these games differently as a coach or a player, how significant are they to basketball in this region?
Well, it's very significant in this region. I mean, for ESPN, I got to travel a number of different places, and the only other place that I could kind of maybe relate to us having, us and, this great, not just basketball program, but just institutions with NC State, Duke, and Wake Forest, and all of us really close together would be out there in California when I was at ESPN. There's, Cal and Stanford and Santa Clara and St. Mary's. And when I was out there with ESPN, I was like, this is kind of like us with so many great programs and universities in close proximity. But it means a lot. There's a lot of history of, ACC basketball here in Carolina, and it means a lot.
Hubert, wanted to ask you about Paxson, and I mean, you always say that you've always said you tell everyone be ready when your number's called, but with him specifically, how have you seen him go about sort of staying in it, keeping his head up? He's the guy who played 35 minutes a game last year and scored 15 points a game in the Ivy League, and now he has to pick his spots. Like, how have you seen him navigate it and stay in it and be ready?
Yeah, he's a great example to our younger players about being ready in terms of preparation and practice, and when his number is called, he's ready to play. And you're right. I mean, he played 10 minutes against Clemson. There's been times where he only played in the first half, and there's been times that he started. And as a player, you have to have that ability to be able to adjust and to be able to perform on call, and he's been able to do it. I mean, he just is a great teammate. The guys absolutely love him, and the only downside of Paxson is that I only get to coach him 1 year. He's a dream player to coach.
Couple more minutes, then we'll get Cormac in here.
And just as a follow-up on that, just the toughness too, and the guy's head's been split open a couple times this year.
Yeah, no, he really wants to wear that headband. I don't know if he's doing that on purpose, but maybe he can shave his hair. But he's tough. He's tough, and that type of toughness of being able to get back up and get knocked down is such an example again to our younger players and to our team about getting back up and fighting and stepping forward. And he's an example of that every day.
I want to ask specifically about NC State's form. Like, what challenges does he pose specifically?
Well, a lot. I mean, he's a gifted scorer. I mean, he can, score with the ball in his hands. He can come off screens. He's shooting over 40% from three. Very aggressive, playmaker, very confident, has the green light. And, the type of attention that needs to be on him is the same type of attention that you have on, Henson and Gerard and those type of guys. He's in a really nice rhythm right now. He's playing at an extremely high level and very difficult to defend.
That Burns versus Baycott matchup, it's one that everyone looks forward to.
Yeah.
Is there someone else on the team that you think could handle Burns this year to give Baycott a rest or some help?
I hope. I hope. I don't know how you handle Burns. I don't. I mean, he's really, it's very hard for me to think of a big that skilled that can make difficult shots consistently, but just his passing is just off the chart. And so he just opens up everything for his team, and he gets fouled, gets to the free throw line, gets them into the penalty. And so my hope is that we do have more than just Armando having a chance to be able to compete against him tomorrow.
Last one, Jeremiah.
Yeah, obviously going back to the state, both of their leading scorers being transfer guys. What makes preparation unique for teams like that where, you see them, every year, sometimes they have the same coach, but the personnel kind of changes so quickly. Like, what makes, preparation unique in that regard?
Well, I mean, it really, now with, like synergy and scouting and, pretty much every game's on TV. You see everybody, and so yes, there are transfers, but you have a great idea of their game and what they're doing at their current school and what they have done in their previous school as well. And so, in terms of scouting, it's just there's really no difference. We know guys' tendencies and where they want to go and what they want to do, and our job is to make it difficult and hard for them, and hope it works out the best for us.
Thank you, Coach. We'll get Cormac in
Thank you.
here.
Okay, see you tomorrow.